There is something I want to ask you before this video goes any further. Not about your pension, not about your savings rate or your withdrawal strategy. There are plenty of places you can go for that conversation. What I want to ask you is simpler than that, and harder. Have you been honest with yourself? Because the signs I am about to walk you through, they do not arrive loudly. They do not send you a letter. They do not show up on a blood test or a bank statement. They creep in slowly, quietly, disguised as normal. And by the time most people recognize them, they have already been carrying the weight for years longer than they needed to. This video is not about whether you can retire. It is about whether you already should have. And if you are 65 and still asking yourself that question, I want you to stay with me. Because what I am about to show you may be the most useful thing you hear this year. Sign 1. You are exhausted. And not the good kind. Most people understand tiredness, the satisfying kind, the kind that follows a long walk, a hard morning in the garden, a day where you actually did something. That tiredness has a texture to it. You sleep, you recover, you wake up restored. This is not that. What I am describing is a different category entirely. A 2019 study published in the Journal of Occupational Health Psychology identified what researchers called occupational depletion, a state of chronic exhaustion that is not resolved by rest because it is not caused by effort. It is caused by misalignment, by doing work that no longer connects to anything inside you. You wake up and it is already there. Before the first meeting, before the commute, before anyone has asked anything of you. A heaviness that sleep does not touch. If you used to find meaning in what you did, and now you are simply enduring the hours between arriving and leaving, that is not a bad week. That is your biology telling you something your diary has not caught up with yet. The body does not lie. At 65, it is even less patient than it used to be. Sign 2. You have outgrown the job, but the job has not changed. This one is subtle. People misread it as boredom. It is not boredom. It is growth that has run out of room. You are not the same person you were at 45. Your thinking has deepened. What you care about has shifted. The problems that once engaged you no longer stretch you in any direction. You have solved them. Dozens of times. The conversations feel familiar before they finish. The meetings cover the same ground they covered last year. Research from Stanford's Center on Longevity found that adults in their 60s who reported low cognitive engagement at work showed measurably faster decline in executive function compared to those who were mentally stimulated either through work or purposeful post-work activity. The job is not challenging you, and at 65, that is not a minor inconvenience. That is a quiet cost. When you find yourself sitting in a room thinking, I have done this 100 times, that is not laziness. That is signal. The work is not serving you anymore, and the question you have to sit with is this: what exactly are you staying for? Sign 3. What matters to you has already moved. There was a time when the career was the center, the goals, the targets, the next step up. That made complete sense. That was the right season for it. But something has shifted. You notice it in small ways. The things that feel urgent at work feel less important the moment you step outside. The mornings matter more now. The people matter more. The walk, the grandchildren, the trip you keep saying you will take when things settle down. Things that have never once settled down on their own. A landmark study in the Journal of Gerontology tracked adults across a 15-year period and found that one of the strongest predictors of life satisfaction after 65 was not wealth or health status, but value alignment, whether the life a person was living matched what they actually cared about. When your values have moved and your life has not followed them yet, that gap has a cost. It is not dramatic. It does not announce itself. It just sits there quietly every Sunday evening, every time you say, not yet. That is not selfishness. That is clarity. And clarity at 65 is not something you postpone. Sign 4. Your health is paying the bill. Chronic workplace stress in adults over 60 is not abstract. The research on this is specific, and it is not comfortable reading. A major review published in The Lancet found that sustained occupational stress in older adults is directly associated with elevated cortisol levels, disrupted sleep architecture, increased abdominal fat accumulation, and measurably higher inflammatory markers, all of which, as you may have seen on this channel before, are significant drivers of age-related disease. You know the feeling I am describing without needing a citation. The way Sunday evenings have their own atmosphere. The tension you carry in your shoulders on a Monday morning that was not there on Saturday. The sleep that looks fine on paper but never fully repairs you. Hard work is not the problem. Hard work at the right time in the right direction is one of the most satisfying things a person can do. What I am describing is different. It is the pressure that does not switch off when the laptop closes. The kind that follows you home and sits in your chest through dinner. The kind that has been quietly running in the background for so long you have started calling it normal. At 65, the body's tolerance for that kind of sustained strain is narrower than it was at 45. The margin for error is smaller, and no salary, regardless of how fair or generous, changes that calculation. At some point, the job is simply costing more than it is returning, and the currency it is spending is not replaceable. Sign 5. You do not just want to leave, you want something else. This is the one that matters most. There is a difference between wanting to escape and wanting to claim something. Frustration produces the first. Genuine readiness produces the second. Wanting to escape is reactive. It rises and falls with circumstances. A bad quarter, a difficult manager, a project that should have ended 6 months ago. That desire is real, but it is not stable. It is not a foundation. What I am describing is different. It is when you find yourself imagining a specific kind of day. Not just a day without work, but a day with something in it. The morning walk without a time limit. The reading you keep deferring. The project that has nothing to do with anyone else's priorities. The people you want to spend real time with, while time is still something you can choose. A longitudinal study from the Health and Retirement Study, tracking over 20,000 Americans across 2 decades, found that retirees who entered retirement with a clear sense of purposeful activity reported significantly higher well-being, lower depression rates, and better physical health outcomes than those who retired simply to escape. The research is consistent. Retiring towards something is biologically and psychologically different from retiring away from something. When that desire is clear and consistent, not just present on a difficult Friday afternoon, but there on a good Tuesday morning too, that is not wishful thinking. That is your answer. That is the sign above all the others. Retirement at its best is not the end of something. It is the beginning of a chapter you have been quietly building the case for, possibly for years. And if the case is already built, the only question left is why you are still waiting for permission. What these signs add up to. 5 signs. Exhaustion that rest does not resolve. Work that no longer challenges you. Values that have already moved on without your life following. Health that is paying a price you have stopped acknowledging out loud. And a genuine, clear, consistent desire for a different kind of day. None of these are weaknesses. They are information. Accurate, honest, biological and psychological information that your body and mind have been delivering for some time. A 2022 analysis published in the Journal of Aging and Health found that adults who delayed retirement, despite recognizing these markers, reported significantly higher regret at 70 than those who made the transition intentionally and on their own terms. The regret was not about leaving too early. It was about staying too long. Retirement is not a question of age, and it is not only a question of money. It is a question of alignment. Whether the life you are living still corresponds to the person you have actually become. At 65, that question deserves a straight answer. If any of these 5 signs landed for you, I genuinely want to know which one. Tell me in the comments. And if you are in this season of life, seriously thinking about what comes next, this channel is exactly where that conversation lives. Subscribe and stay close. The next video covers something that pairs directly with everything we talked about today, and I will see you there.